Okay. Hello, all. Hello to my favorite tour operators, the ones who listen to this podcast. Welcome again to Growth Powered by FareHarbor. My name is Rebekah. I am the community manager of FareHarbor, as many of you know. And I'm here with a wonderful operator today who also gave me the special chance to take their tour in San Francisco, a marketing extraordinaire, an operator, a sailor. We have Charlie from Adventure Cat Sailing. Charlie, how's it going today?
Going very well. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of
Appreciate
course.
the time.
Yes, appreciate your time. And like I said, I had the pleasure of going on your tour when I was in San Francisco for the FareHarbor meetup. And it was nothing short of magical. It was my first time of San Francisco, and I can't think of a better way to spend my sunset than on a boat. I'm in Denver, Colorado today, where I'm based out of, so not a whole lot of boat time, not as much as I'd like. So being on your boat was like magic. Thank you for having us. Charlie, I would love to get a little background about you. If you could tell the listeners a little bit about Adventure Cat, if you could tell them about you as well, how you started the business, if you're like, why do you love the water so much? I think we'd love to hear about it.
Okay, yeah, happy to share this. Plenty to unpack. So Adventure Cat is in our 34th season in San Francisco. Same ownership from start till, still running. And actually, I've been there 11 years, so I can't say I'm a founder, but I'll start with my personal background is marketing first. So I went to school for a business degree, marketing, have a strong business background, but lifelong sailor, have parents who were sailors, grew up on boats, around boats, racing sailboats here in San Francisco, actually. And so for me to do marketing and sailing and tell people that they should go sailing or try and get people to go on boats that's perfect for me. So I started with the company as just a marketing director, basically. And then now I'm the general manager for the last few years. The company, as I said, was 34 years, started by a local husband and wife, and then another gentleman back in the late 80s. That started as a business taking people out by the ballpark here in San Francisco, Pier 40, in 1991. So that was our first business year. But it's an interesting story because they set out, they're actually just sailors also, used to live on boats and deliver boats and all involved in that industry. And they sail small catamarans as a hobby, they still do. And they decided one day, like, hey, maybe people would like to take a boat out under the Golden Gate Bridge and we could do a sailboat. And then they thought, well, a catamaran would be a really cool platform for that, because catamarans are actually, for those that don't know, that means it has the two holes with the nets and the cabinet. So it stays, as you found out, stays very flat and stable and smooth, and they're actually faster also. So it's a really nice platform for people of all ages and all skill levels, and people who have never been on a boat to people who are professional sailors. It still feels like sailing, but it lends itself really well to all age groups and all of that. And so it also, like I said, because it's faster, you can actually get to the bridge and back in a short amount of time. And so people can go on about their day and do other things. And so they set out to do that in the late 80s and couldn't find the boat that worked for them. There aren't a lot of boats that are made like this. And so there's catamarans, but it doesn't fit the tourism model. So they actually decided to take a loan out and build the first boat. And so the two original business partners, the two husbands, actually the three of them, basically 10,000 man hours, and they built what we have Adventure Cat 1, which is still in operation today. And I can't recall which boat you went on. It would be the one that has the sort of blue canvas windows as opposed to the hardtop. But that boat's 34 years old, and they started that boat, built it by hand, got it Coast Guard certified, the whole process. So it's literally custom built by us for us. And then the second boat came along. So the first boat holds 47 people. The second boat holds 90 people. So the large catamarans are 55 and 65 feet long. They're about 34 feet wide. So it's kind of like a big rectangle. The second boat came online right around the year 2000. So we've had the second boat for over 20 years. But we take about 40,000 people a year out under the bridge. We do hour-and-a-half trips 3 to 4 times a day out of Pier 39, out by Alcatraz, out under the Golden Gate Bridge, and then back down the city front. And we also do private charters. So private charters is roughly 25 to 30% of our business, and then we have what we call ticketed or the public trips, which are the other 75 to 80%, something like that. But it's great. So it's a wonderful way for people to see the city. We get a lot of locals actually because it's people who live here who have never been on the water don't think they want to go down to Pier 39, but if we can get them down there, they become ambassadors and they bring every friend that comes to town. They're like, we got to go on Adventure Cat. We got to see the city from the water. It's just such a different perspective, such a unique perspective. And there's other elements of that experience that we can talk about, but why I think it's sort of an evergreen experience. I don't think it's going anywhere, and why it means so much to people to see it and feel it and be on the boat. So yeah, I love what we do. There's the smile that people have when they're there, and the kind of awe factor. It's real, and so it's really, really valuable.
Thank you so much for that. That was more than I can imagine. That was a great background on what you do. And I'm sure my wonderful editor, Lloyd, is showing all of the smiles that me and my coworker had while being on the boat. And I loved what you said about that, like your guest happiness is very real. Their smiles are very authentic. When I was on your tour, I saw the cutest older couple. I imagined in my head they were on like their 50th wedding anniversary, and they were like Jack and Rose in the front of the boat, like holding each other, watching the sunset against the bridge. And it was like the cutest thing I've ever seen as I drank alone in the corner with my box of wine. It was magical, and it was cute. And it's easy in these times to focus on like the hardships that small businesses are seeing. But I do think that in those moments, it's really nice to like believe in what you do, which was the case for me working at FareHarbor. But I think also I was standing with one of your staff, Connie, and pointed at them, and we smiled, and it was just very cute. Another thing I heard in that was legacy. So you said you started with one boat, and that was custom built, right? And then you got a second boat that was custom built. That's incredible. And that says a lot to the tenacity of a business to be open for that long. And I'm curious to know, for you, it's kind of a compound question here that I'm throwing at you. One, what has changed? What do you think? I know you haven't been there all 40 years, but what do you think in marketing wise, what has really evolved and changed in that 40 years that the business has had to adapt to? And two, I would love to see how local marketing plays into that, because a lot of our operators, especially as things kind of change, they might have to market a little more locally. So I'd love to hear the marketing piece on how that has evolved, how you've stayed up with it as a man of marketing, and how that tapped into local marketing as well.
Sure. Yeah, there's a fair amount we can unpack there, but yeah, it is legacy. For us, for us as a business, I'll just say marketing in the high level sense, always to us boils down to that user experience, which includes online and how they book and things like that. But really, it comes down to the experience on the boats, and you can trip and stumble even in the booking flow or the search. The people talk about the funnel and all of that. Like when someone going from I want to go on a trip all the way down to showing up at our dock, you can trip and fall even in there somewhere and like lose them and get back to them and have an email that went to the wrong place and stuff like that. But if you can deliver when they are there in person and meet them where they are eyeball to eyeball, it will only help you, and it will always build your brand over the long run. It's a slow growth. It's a slow growth thing. It's not a big ROI and stuff like that. But if you can hack it long enough, that is where the money's made, in my opinion. And then when we have people ask us about like reviews, right? Like we have a lot of good reviews. We have thousands of 5-star reviews, and that's not a cocky statement. That's just a fact. And people say like, well, what did you do to that? What program did you buy? Or what blah, blah, blah. And the reality is we spend extremely little on anything that's around review technology. We actually don't really do it. The one thing we do is send follow-up emails, I think, through FareHarbor, asking for a review, and that's it. But the reviews are all organic, and they come from what? They come from the experience, and we've always tried to hammer that home, right? So because you can do all the tech stuff, but if it's just not a good experience, it's not a good experience. And I'm a user in my own travels, right? And if something's not fun, you can hit me in 50 ways about, hey, leave a review here, do this, do that. I'm not really going to do it because it just wasn't really worth it, And so
I'm more likely to leave no review if I had a bad time than a bad review. So I think little reviews say a lot, I think, to consumers as well. Before we started recording, we talked about when I went on your tour, I had no idea. I'm from Colorado. I had no idea California could be cold. I really didn't know. I had no idea. And then I got on the boat and I was like, what are these? You had coats available. And I was like, am I going to need that? And I sure as heck did.
Yes, you are. Yeah, most likely.
And that was a way that really enhanced the experience for me, is because I was really comfortable and I could actually enjoy myself. What tips do you have for operators that, are little investments, little things that could really amp up those reviews and amp up those positive experiences from their guests?
I think it's listening more, actually, a lot of times. So, and that doesn't mean that most operators don't, but it's just really paying attention. We get the most feedback during a trip, right? Like, it's much harder to get feedback after. You can get follow-ups, you can get reviews, you'll get, if you get a negative review, like I forget what the statistic is, right? But it's like you tell 15 people about a bad experience versus 5 people about a good one, or something like that. So it's like you'll hear about the negative stuff, but usually those are big things. And a lot of, for us, we'll get negative reviews from time to time, but they're pretty much always about something else in the funnel. It's actually not us when you really get down to it. But to your question, it's really, for us, it's about listening to what the needs are. So when we started the jacket example, we started the company. Yeah, people underestimate San Francisco and how cold it can be. Still a super fun trip. There's a reason I tell people all the time, there's a reason we're called Adventure Cat, because it's like going on a bit of an adventure. And sometimes an adventure can be cold or windy, and we're sailboats. We need wind. There's people like, it's really windy out here. And we're like, well, we can't really do what we do if we didn't have the wind. So we got to kind of find a balance. But we noticed, right off the bat, people are colder than they anticipate. It's generally 10 degrees colder on the water than it is even on the dock, right? So people think like, oh, I can handle this. They're at the pier and they're like, I got this. And they don't really realize that in 10 minutes, you're going to be out there in the breeze and 20 miles an hour wind. And like, it's a different experience. And you do actually want to be out there to see it, because we have a stadium of views all the way around us, and the bridge and Alcatraz and the city. And like, there's just things to look at everywhere. And so you do want to be a part of it. Anyway, so we tinkered in the early days. I think we did blankets at one point. And then we just realized, you know what, we got to invest in some jackets. And people love the jackets, and it's become we've actually started selling them, not marketing them as a, like, mounted up for sale, but just because we've had people that literally walk up to the bar and they're like, I want to buy this jacket. And we're like, okay, we can sell you. And they're like, no, I want this jacket. Like, we're like, well, that's used, like, you should. They're like, no, I want, like, they're so committed that they're like, no, I want this jacket. And we're like, all right,
it's thrifting, basically.
So yeah, so jackets, just little feedback stuff, like understanding, what their needs are, what they like, that's part of why we don't do a preset tour, a guided tour. Sometimes people are like, and you'll get a few people that want that, and that's okay. So we have, it used to be an audio guide, like the old kind of cell phone looking thing. Now we have a audio tour that you can scan with your phone on a QR code, and you can listen to facts. So we have this script about all kinds. I think it has 20 something different scripts about different facts around the bay if you're looking. Some people love it. It's in 8 languages. Most people don't want it at all. Don't ever use it. Don't ever need it. And so we've realized long ago that, like, shoving that down someone's throat is not really what they're there for. And there are companies where I think it can be tempting to be like, no, you're in San Francisco, we got to tell you about San Francisco, or wherever you are. This is what you're here for. And it's not our job to tell them what they're here for. And we are providing an experience, and we've refined it to understand that, okay, if we just put on a little bit of like mellow background music, serve up some drinks, and have things available, if somebody wants that audio tour, they can do it. But most people for our product want to just soak in that experience, like the experience you had. You want to just look around, and for a lot of people, they're starting or ending a trip with us. Most people end a trip with us if they can, because they're like, they did a bus tour over the bridge, or they biked over the bridge, or they did a hiking tour, or they were doing all these other things in San Francisco. And it's a really cool way for them to sit and be like, oh, look, we used to walk over there. Oh, we were just up on top of that building, and blah, 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 blah. And they're reliving that whole thing in their own little group of 4 people on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And who are we to blast this, like, on your right is Alcatraz. It doesn't,
Yeah.
in the right setting, in the right product, other products that works really well. If somebody's going for that tour, that they should do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big ferry boats should do that.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that. Just listening, to me, it's all about listening. And
it was the staff too. I mean, the staff came around, and I'm taking a selfie with my coworker, and your staff member coming up and said, "Hey, can I take a picture? Can I take that picture for you guys?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, absolutely!" And it was a whole photo shoot. It made it really amplified the experience there. And then they were also pointing out the dolphins, which I thought was really nice and super fun. Anytime I get to see them. Shifting gears a little bit, you also mentioned earlier local marketing. Tell me a little bit about that, because currently, with everything going on in the US, a lot of consumers from outside the US, there's a little bit of change. And I don't know if you're in the group Tourpreneur. Love that group. Shout out to Mitch. Love Tourpreneur, love Trip School. And they talk in there. I see a lot of operators talking in that group about things are shifting a little bit. And I'm starting to see a few cancellations come in from people visiting from out of the US. And now they want to cancel their tour. They're not quite sure if they want to come here. So people are looking for more advice around local marketing and how to tap into the market of where they're at, which can be tricky for a tourism-based company. What advice do you have for that? What experience can you speak on with local marketing?
Sure. Well, it's true. It's absolutely true. The international brand is hurting at the moment. And for us, it's same. We're finding the same thing. It's a lot like, so the pandemic was like that for us. It was a very big lesson, especially in San Francisco, about San Francisco as a market was very dependent on the foreign traveler, and SFO as an airport was very dependent on foreign traveler, more than many airports. One of the hardest hits and slowest recovering airports in the country. So we learned a lot, because it was a wake up call of like, oh, we were really reliant on those German families and French families and so on that would come to the pier. And so for local marketing, on the flip side of that is AdventureCat was actually kind of built on local grassroots marketing. So we've historically never pumped a lot of money into resourcing and pumped a lot of resources into marketing. We did a lot of ground game. So in the old days with concierges, we used to just dedicate a day or two a week and would just walk hotels. And this is pre-internet, like, not pre-internet, but before people could do bookings and things like that on the internet. But so it's changed over the years. But it was relationship building, kind of like the review thing. It was just get out there, get in every physical space you could be in locally to have a presence, and sacrifice. Instead of pumping resources into advertising, what we typically do is just send people on the boat, like we sent you, right? It's the cheapest way for us as a business. It's the most cost effective, or least expensive way for us to invest in marketing, and it's the highest payback by far. So we found that, paying for a display ad versus sending a person on the boat, there's no question that somebody like yourself will tell at least a number of other people, and that has so much more value to those people that hear it from you or whoever we've sent than flipping through it in a magazine. It just never got the ROI. It just never made sense for us. And so we just said, you know what, we're fortunate. Granted, I don't think it's not for everybody, because if you're doing a walking tour, it's hard to just give up X amount of spots on a 10-person walking tour or whatever. We have a boat that has seats that typically we're not selling out every single trip. So there's trips to be had where we can just, the boat's going, it's already got 30 people on it, and what's 32, and 2 of them are free, fine. But that's been our biggest local marketing, has been anybody we run into in the business, like, hey, do you want to go sailing sometime? You should check this out. Like, it's really fun, and it's a great way to see the city, and blah, 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 blah. And we send them. And that has built up a same kind of loyal following where people just say, oh, you want to go? You got to do this. Also, being in, when we do the private charters, doing a dual sort of referral marketing. So if somebody goes on a public, we do a follow-up email that says, hey, hope you enjoyed that trip. Have you ever thought about doing a team event, family reunion, list out kind of, because most people, right, they have a day job. And so maybe a lot of those people might be looking for something to do, and people are looking for something interesting, and vice versa. So if somebody comes on a team event that was booked through their business and they have no idea who we are, they show up, they have a killer time on a lunch cruise. Then we send something that says, hey, you should bring family and friends sometime. We do this every day. We buy tickets. We sell tickets every day. Come on out. And somebody goes, oh my gosh, this is great. Or they come with the business and then they decide to bring their family, or that kind of thing. So trying to do cross marketing as much as possible has been really helpful. Basically, it's just utilizing the assets that we have to market.
I love that. Utilizing the assets that you have in order to market. What does it, a lot of the clients I talk to, like I said, I was in San Francisco for the FareHarbor meetups event, and a lot of clients are still very confused on, like, who am I sending out? Who should I be sending out to these tours? Are they like social media influencers? Are they like bloggers? How do you navigate that? How do you know who to send out, and what does that communication look like?
Well, it's evolving all the time. I would say we err on the side of send them anyway, right? We're like anybody else. We get hit by all kinds of influencers that are not really influencers. They're like a husband and wife that have a blog, and they have got, their 20 followers, and they're in town for the weekend, and they're basically looking for a free trip. You know what? Go have fun. Like, because we can do it. We're going out anyway. Like I said, if it's not a huge cost differential, we'll just send them, because even if they write it and they refer one person, that one person's going to maybe book a couple of seats, and that's going to cover their trip. And we're still getting the kind of that, it's again, that kind of slow build. So we err on that side. But I will say we try and be efficient, at least asking people to copy us on something that they write. So make it a bit more official. So, hey, if we're gonna send you, please copy us. What do you plan to write? What do you plan to write up? What do you plan to post? Whatever it is. I think it's trying to send people who can have a ripple effect. Of course, that's not rocket science, but for us this year, we're trying to lean into more of like organic influencer type of marketing. Really, I mean, we used to shun influencers more than embrace them, and the reality is the way things are shifting, we have to really focus on, for us, it's kind of like local San Francisco 3-hour drive regional type of market. And so it's a combination of basically just sending anybody who's kind of operating in the area that might have that influence, and then starting to get into more of like geotagging and actual programming of advertising. If we're doing advertising, making sure we're hitting people who are actually in market, less worried about the big funnel stuff. We feel more confident that, like, if somebody is up in the high in the funnel of travel, we'll get them when they get down to the San Francisco level and something in here. We don't need to necessarily worry about fighting for every keyword up in the big San Francisco keywords and stuff like that versus some other market.
That's a good segue. How close attention do you all pay to SEO and the Google of it all? Is that something that's...
We actually are surprisingly not at this point, probably, but we don't. We are more grassroots than that. I mean, we watch it. We certainly have built our website to try and incorporate the right strings of words. I was just literally on a call before this with Arrival, trying to understand the AI stuff and really trying to wrap our heads around not just AI and what people are doing, but also, I mean, that's multifaceted. It's such the hot trend word right now, but there's AI in terms of content and generating content, but there's also the AI of like, we want to make sure that we're being found by AI, right? And so that's early in this. It's early still to some degree, but I don't think you can be too early on that. So we're trying to understand, because that actually changes SEO. Then, like, SEO can become less valuable in the AI tracking world, but then SEO is still valuable in the user searching Google, that kind of world. So trying to balance all those things, I think those are really easy wormholes to spend a whole lot of money and not know what your return is. So I'm super skeptical usually about that stuff. And not that I won't do it, but we really try and just make sure that something is trackable, traceable. Like, what are we spending money on, and is it actually generating something? And obviously there's a time and a place to experiment, and sometimes you just commit resources and say, I don't really know what I'm going to get out of this, but I'm going to give it a shot, and that's fine too. In this current climate, we're watching everything harder than ever because there's just not the room to just be, throwing buckets of money towards new ventures and seeing what happens. So we're kind of going back to sticking to the bread and butter of the things that we know work. And again, like, if it's working and we have reviews, we want to lean into those kinds of things. So something that can, use our reviews to our power, or use our past customers to our power, or whatever the things that we know work, and really flush those out before we start just looking out at other worlds. So,
any tools you use to target those past customers in your contact list?
I mean, we do a mix of mostly like email marketing. Actually, we had sort of like an opening, when we opened our season. We just opened in the middle of March, brought the boat back, but we sent a sort of series of couple of emails for that. And some people say email marketing is dead. I actually think it has a return, and it's all how you do it. And we did it, and we had, on one sunset trip, their crew said they had 3 or 4 different parties that all said they booked because they got an email. And one guy said, I don't even know how I got here. But I'm on the boat. And
I followed the sounds of the seals.
Yeah, and it was like, so those, just when you think, like, I used to think, oh, I don't know if anybody's even opening these things because I trash all kinds of emails. But, if you do it and you have a brand, it's all about those touch points, right? But not specific tools necessarily. It's not like there's one provider that we're like, oh, this is what we do. We do some programmatic ads, which is more top of funnel. For existing customers, it's usually email marketing, and reaching out to whatever contact point we have for past customers.
Yeah, I had one client who had a pretty straightforward book form. They didn't have a lot they needed to gather in order to go out. And so they added a custom field for zip codes for you to enter in your zip code. And they would segment their email marketing from using the FareHarbor reporting. In order to send out, like, oh, who's a local? We know these are the zip codes that are local, or these are the zip codes within a certain radius. And then they would do their emails from there versus their strategy in their emails for people who may have come from out of town. So a lot of stuff I don't think email marketing is dead at all. No. I actually just went to a happy hour because they said, we have an all-day happy hour on Wednesdays. I said, girl,
there you go.
Count me in that click rate. I opened. I'll see you in a sec.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't think, and I also use a lot of video evidence. Even if I find something on Google, I'm reinforcing what I'm going to go do with TikTok or Instagram Reels. So, and I have used AI personally in my travels. I went to Ireland for a 30th birthday. Oh my gosh, I think it was my 30th birthday. Time flies. And I tried to use AI. This was a year ago, last November. And like 70% of the stuff that it gave me was closed, whether it was a hostel or a tour.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I think it's getting there, but it's not quite there yet. Or it was like a website where I was like, I don't want to put my credit card number in here. So
Totally.
it is interesting to see it like evolve. But I agree that while it's important to stay in the know about it, and I think Arrival does a great job of that, I am still it's still up and coming. Same with like Google Things to Do. I also think that's one thing that a lot of clients don't fully understand or know, and some things Google doesn't fully like have fleshed out yet, but it's good to like stay in the ether to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Shifting gears again here, we talked about the coats earlier, the coats of it all. Those coats were so cute. I loved them. And I'm so glad that I didn't know they were on sale, because I would have been that person as well.
We can still get you one. Yeah.
I want this one. It looked so good in the photos. It like amplified the way like that brick color of the bridge against like the blue of the coat
Yep.
looked so good with the blue of the water and the white sail. Like it looked so, I'm a girly pop right now, but it just made my pictures look so cute. Which brings me to questions around branding. You're the marketing guy, Charlie, so I got to ask you about branding.
Yep.
When you came on with Adventure Cat, did you have the same logo? Did you have the same colors that you do now? And can you give our operators some insight on if they feel like they want to redo their branding, or they're just getting started and they're trying to establish their brand profile? Like, what things can they keep in mind, and what's your story with establishing a brand?
Sure. Yeah, I can't take full credit for a lot of it from when I started. So the logo was there. The logo is the logo. The sort of three color scheme that we have, which is red, white, and a blue. It's typically more of like this kind of lighter blue than it is the blues of those jackets. It just so happens those jackets were sold in more of like a royal blue, but it works. And red, white, and blue, transfers for all kinds of things. People are very familiar with it. I think that's helpful. Um, yeah, in terms of building a brand or keeping a brand, for us, I personally think marketing and brand specific is can be tempting to redo your brand or like stay current, or like it's kind of, I don't know, there's something like kind of attractive about like, oh, we're going to do an overhaul and like we're going to refresh everything and it's going to be amazing, and that's cool. But there's also something about being timeless, right? And something to me in my sort of history of branding and marketing is like, when you have a brand, you don't overhaul the whole thing. So that would be my tip, is like, don't just break everything down and redo your brand to where people cannot recognize it. So if you study brands and the way people have like changed logos over time, or have changed brands and their names and things over time, right? Like they have maybe it might be like if we did Adventure Cat sailing charters, and then at a certain point we felt like that's a mouthful and we just wanted to be Adventure Cat, we wouldn't just drop it entirely, because we need sailing somewhere in there people understand. And so then we might just use Adventure Cat in most places, or we might just use Adventure Cat sailing and drop the charters, and then not mess with the look and the logo or the colors. And so I guess if I was giving any tips, which I don't know that I'm qualified to do, but I will, but would be, don't just like throw everything out, because I think we've all had an experience where like it could be as simple as going to the grocery store, right? And you look for your favorite milk, and there's like the wall of milks, and you literally, I've done it. I like can't find the milk that I normally buy, and then I see, like after a few minutes, I see it in the shelf, and it's because they're like, oh, same milk, new look, or whatever, and it's like it's completely different. Now, granted, I spend enough time to find it because I'm still like looking for that milk because I like it or whatever. But I think that we can lose people sometimes, where all of a sudden we change the look and we're happy with it in our office, but we're not paying attention to the fact that a lot of other people are used to this brand. They've seen this logo for 30 years. If I throw this thing out, I might pick up like trendy new things that are happening, but I might be losing everybody who's paid attention to this and who feels like an identity with it. And the more you have a brand, the more people buy into it. And so you can sort of castigate the people that were part of your brand by going in a different, and they're like, oh, well, they're not the same anymore, or they sold out, or people make their own weird assumptions that we don't even translate, but it can translate that way. So for us, it's always been core colors, core brand, core look and feel, but try and kind of evolve and keep things current. So we do like the pieces that we do, like this is a kind of form fitted fleece. It's kind of athletic. This is not available for purchase, right? This is just for our crew and for us, but it gives us a certain look and feel. And then we have beanies and jackets and things that go for the people. Or we do things in limited editions. Sometimes we've done shirts, like t-shirts for one season, and done like a cool design. And we tell people like, this is the 2023 t-shirt, and then that gives people a little bit of like, ooh, that's kind of cool. I was here, I bought that. And I know that like not everybody's going to have that. Even if somebody went this year, they're not going to get the shirt that I have because I was there in 23. Those are little things that I think you can do, which work really well.
Absolutely. Thank you. In the same vein as branding, I really love your website. Obviously, I wouldn't think you've had the same website for 40 years. I would hope. Otherwise, you were real ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the choices here, especially like on the homepage, what we call above the fold.
Mm-hmm.
I see a few things here I want to call out. The San Francisco's best way to experience the Bay, risk-free booking with our free 24-hour cancellation policy. I don't see a call out for that often on that cancellation policy. Do you think that plays a big role in the bookings you get online?
I do. I mean, I don't have a lot of hard data to back that up. But I think, to be quite honest, it mostly came out of COVID largely. We always had a very friendly sort of booking, but the idea of calling it out really only happened when COVID was happening and people were fearful basically of booking and being things. And we were fortunate that, we were shut down for a long time. But when we could open, that we were an outdoor activity, people felt generally safe coming. But yeah, so that's been, I think, a huge thing. It just puts people at ease. It's just saying like, hey, because everybody will say they're the best at everything, right? Every website should say like, this is the most amazing tour you'll ever go on. This is the most amazing thing you'll ever do. And that's cool. But then when you can also say, hey, book, and like, if you don't like it, just cancel or change or do whatever you want. Then people feel really comfortable and they book. And we all know most often people don't cancel. They just want to know that they could if they had to.
Yeah. Another thing I love is the call out here. So for people only listening, not watching, on the homepage, not above the fold, but with a little bit of a scroll, I also see some data, which I don't see a lot for our industry. So you call out, we have 1,678 reviews, and 97% of the time we spend under sale power alone. I just did an episode a few weeks ago about how customers are really interested in the sustainability of a tour and the things that they're taking. So I think that's really cool. And then you have it listed. We operate 7 days a week. And then the last stat is 0. And it says number of other similar capacity sailing catamaran tours on San Francisco Bay. I love the shade throwing there. I think it's very cheeky and fun. That's really cool. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what kind of advice you can have for people to kind of get creative with that kind of marketing on their homepage?
Sure. Yeah, that line, that whole line across, I can take some credit for. I did put that together back in the day. It really stems from just my belief that people have less and less attention spans these days, right? It's kind of like how we put everything was in like short paragraph form, and then it becomes in bullet points because people just can't digest a lot anymore. And so the thought was just, if I'm scrolling, right, we all know the different statistics and like how many fractions of a second you have to get somebody's attention, right, and to keep them engaged. And so that's kind of the idea of our site, of as you scroll down is like, okay, there's a good picture, you get a little bit of a scroll, okay, it's risk-free, I feel better, and then you just get 4 quick points about why this is good, and we have that rating right above it. We have rated 4.8 out of 5 stars. So without doing anything else, people just know, okay, there's a couple thousand people that have reviewed this thing. The one question we get a lot is like, do you actually sail? Because what we find is most people who have done catamaran tours in other places have been there are catamaran tours billed as catamaran tours, but they're not often sailing a lot, and they're in like tropical places where maybe there's not as much wind or whatever, and people go out and it's like more of a booze cruise. And so we want people to understand, no, this is actually sailing. This is like a really sailing experience. Um, it is, to your point of sustainability. That was only a couple of years ago, I think a year or two ago, that we added there's a little line right above those stats that says wind, the original zero emission transportation, which is not shade throwing, but it's just a little bit of like, hey, like we can all talk about electric and all these other things, but let's be real, like wind has been around forever, sailboats have been around forever. Like we are the original zero emission. So if anybody's worried about that, like that is what this is. Um, and yeah, the stats are just to be there for a quick digestion, and I think, I don't know, but I think it gets people real comfortable real fast and understands what we do. And yeah, the zero is just it's just a fact, and so I wanted to highlight that, because we are lucky, and there aren't
Yeah.
really, when you look at the capacity and other catamarans, there really isn't anybody doing what we do, and that's an important fact. And but it's a
Hmm.
hard thing to highlight without sounding too like cocky or like self, or stuck up about it. Just marketing has to be
Yeah.
kind of like slipped in there a little bit.
Well, at the end of every episode, just to give you a heads up, I always ask an operator to give themselves a humble brag about the work they've done at their business. So just be prepared for that. You'll have to be a
Okay.
little cocky at the end of the episode. But one
Um,
more call out, before we get there is, I'm noticing now on your item grid on the homepage, which I
okay.
love, always recommend having that. You have a call out for kids being half price. I think
Mhm.
that's huge, and I also don't see that a lot.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about pricing strategy. I love the call out here as well. Do you think that kids half price, having that call out, as well as having that available, having that pricing strategy there, do you think that helps get you more bookings, helps increase the number of those bodies on the boat?
100%. Yeah, it's not just a marketing thing. It's also just like a business principle thing. We've always wanted to. Our owners have a big family. I have 3 children. Like everybody that's involved, like we're all kind of like real people that understand what it takes to go on vacation with your family. And granted, not everybody is a family coming on the boat, but we've always felt like we're here for all ages. We're here for everybody. And the sunset trip is our most popular. We, as a business, don't discount the sunset trip like with age brackets. We just, everybody's the same, um, from babies on through, because it's that competitive, and it's like there's only one sunset a day and all of that. So we always felt like, well, let's counterbalance that with some budget friendly options or some family options. And the reality is, uh, people love it, and kids love this trip. And for any parent out there, myself included, we all know if you can make an enjoyable trip for the children, you're making an enjoyable trip for the parents, right? And so if we can have the kids come on and they're paying half price, they don't take up a lot of space. We're probably not, sell it. We do it only in the daytime, which are we sell out more sunsets than we do daytimes. There's 2 trips on the day instead of the sunset, so there's just less pressure on the whole thing. Um, but yeah, it's been a huge way for us to stay affordable for people, even especially like in this economy. It's costs have gone up, right? Like it's tempting as a business to just raise prices all the time because our costs are going up to do business. But we also have to remember that everybody else's wallet is hurting also, and so we try and have an option, and it gives us as a business an opportunity to say, somebody asks, hey, is there a discount for even the sunset, right? We want to go on the sunset. Is there a discount? And we can say, no, we don't have a discount for that, but we do have the daytime trips. You can be, and it's free for 5 and under. We do 5 and under free, 6 to 12 is half off, 13 and over is considered an adult in ticket price. So um, that's gone a long way for us. So yeah, it's huge, for us to just kind of, I think it's like an olive branch to customers.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And then finally, before we get into your much anticipated humble brag, you spoke earlier in the episode about user experience, and you talked about that. The user experience ends on the tour, right? It ends as soon as they get off the boat, maybe even longer, depending. Let's talk about it with your setup on the website. So, particularly with FareHarbor, we talked about your homepage. We know most people don't leave the homepage, so we click on buy tickets. Talk to me a little bit about the intention and strategy around your user experience, and what can you speak to for those who are looking for a little more booking optimization, making it as easy as possible to grab that conversion online.
Yeah. So we want to make it as easy as possible to either find out information or to make that booking ultimately, right? And everybody pulls that last trigger in their own time, and we don't have control of that. So I guess one of the main things I would say is we try and give them opportunities to book at any stage. Just jump to booking, because at any point they can feel like, all right, I've absorbed enough information, and now I'm ready to book. And so, um, oddly enough, sometimes you can provide a page full of information and somebody gets frustrated because they're like, I just want to book this thing. Like, where do I book? I'm done. Like, I don't want to take in any more information. So we've done that, or at least try to do this. So like on the homepage, there's book tickets at the very top, first thing. So if somebody knows that they're coming here to book, like they don't have to read a thing. They can just go there, click on book tickets. It's also only like a third of the way down the page. So if somebody's just reading the homepage, they feel really good, great. It's also in every one of those tiles, right? There's information and there's book now. So if I know that I'm looking for the base sale, but I don't know until I scroll halfway down and I'm like, oh, there's the base sale, book now, done. But if I'm like, oh, a base sale sunset, I don't know, and then I read information, then I get at least one more page where it's sort of dedicated information. They can read a little bit more about it, and then again they can book if they want to book there. Um, all of those book buttons go to FareHarbor's, booking flow from there. But I think that's probably the main thing, is just trying to like keep it easy, but also give options. So
Mm-hmm.
it's lead a horse to water, but sometimes it's more difficult. But yeah, we just try and do that.
Yeah, amazing. I look in your book form here, and I like the customer types as well. It's very straightforward. Adults, children, wee ones, which have no price on them. So I know ages 5 and under, or 5 and younger, as it says in here, is free. Very easy. And as far as going through the book form, also very easy as well. So that's great. Um, we've come to the end of the episode, Charlie. Thank you so much for your time. And it is now time to spotlight your humble brag. What are you most proud of in the work that you've done in Adventure Cat? We would all love to hear it.
Oh boy, I'm a Leo, so I can humble brag with the best of them. I
Thank you. You're the first guest I've had that offers astrology information. I usually have to grab that information by the horns.
Oh,
So
it's
thank
funny.
you.
That's the limit of my astrology information. I don't have much past. I don't even know who does what. I have to ask my wife all the time, like, what does that mean? I don't even know what our kids are. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What I'm most proud of, I guess, is just our staying power. We're a legacy business in San Francisco. Times get tough, and last few years in San Francisco specifically, it's been a rough market, right? And we're all going through all kinds of different things, and I think we've managed to carve out our little niche here and keep going. And I'm hopeful that we are able to just keep making the adjustments. I also equate it. I feel like it's like the soundboard in a studio when people are recording. It's got like 1,000 knobs, and you're just always like, oh, I'm going to turn that one up. Okay, let's turn that one back down. Let's turn that one up, and let's turn that one back. And you can't leave. Like, you just have to sit at the board. And there were years in the past where you could get up and like take off for a while and come back and then just check your situation and move it. And the reality is you can't anymore. So I'm most proud of that. I'm most proud of our crew too. I think we didn't highlight a lot of that in here, but second to the bridge or our trips, the number one thing we get reviews for is our crew and our staff, and we've gone to great lengths. I'm just sort of like a behind the scenes. I feel like I work for them, and so I we've just really understood that that's our customer facing strength. And so for anybody out there that has staff, like, do hold on to your good staff. And hiring is hard, firing is hard. It's all of those things are, no one's saying it's easy. It's expensive. It's like all the things, but it is where the rubber meets the road. And I'm so proud of our staff and what they do, and how we hire sailors, and we hire people that are good people that like what they do, and it matters. And as you experience, it shows when you're there. You're like, oh, these people, they're not clocking in and clocking out. They're like, they're there, they're ready. And
I will say we had an all-female crew when I took your tour, and that I looked at the captain and I said, "It's the crew, all female," and she said, "It sure is." So I loved that. That was
girl power, man. Girl power. I'm a girl dad. I got 2 girls, and our owners have 4 daughters, and so we're all about that. It's not like that we only do that, but it's just, it's real, right? And so I think for us, I don't know. I just think I'm proud of who we are and what we stand for, and that's the voice that we've tried to maintain, even in marketing, is just a real, like, familiar, friendly, but smart and capable voice. And so we always try to come off as approachable but knowledgeable, and happy to and really believing in what we do. So,
and that really comes off.
But, yeah.
That was a good brag. That was a very diplomatic. It gave precedent. That was a great brag. Loved it. Thank you so much for your time. And I will attest that everything you said in that humble brag comes so authentically in the tours that you offer. So anyone coming to San Francisco, definitely book with Adventure Cat Sailing Charters. It was so much fun. And even though I did not do a private charter with y'all specifically, I have taken private charters before, and there is nothing like it. So if you are planning a trip to San Fran and have a good group going, FareHarbor has payment links. That's how I did it. I forward everyone the confirmation, and I'm like, girls, we got to split this. Come on, they got a bar on the boat. Let's go. It's the funnest thing ever. So definitely check that out. Charlie, go ahead and plug your website and your Instagram. Where can people find you and hopefully book a tour with you?
You got it. Website is adventurecat.com. Pretty straightforward. And the Instagram is @adventurecatsailing. And actually, if you go to the website, or if you go to adventurecat.com, you'll find that there's a feed down below. So if you make some posts and you tag us, should pop up there. You see your feed, your photos.
I did tag you. I wonder, I'm going to have to see if I'm in there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Charlie, for being on Growth Powered by FareHarbor. And thank you all once again for listening. It means so much to me, and it makes me look good for my bosses. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Make sure to like and subscribe, especially if you're watching on YouTube, and leave a comment of what maybe you want to see next. Join the FareHarbor community at fareharbor.com/community. And I will check you all next time. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being here, Charlie.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Super fun.